Live from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray, and as usual, we're inside beautiful Renaissance Bank in downtown Alpharetta, just south of downtown on South Main Street. And speaking of Renaissance Bank, if you're looking for a bank that's not going to embarrass you by being in the headlines on Monday morning, and you know what I mean by that if you've been following the financial news this year, but if you're looking for a bank that you need a wide range of services as a small business, but you want somebody to deliver those services in a personal way, well, I think Renaissance is your choice. Now, if you like the mega bank experience, stay with them. But if you're tired of that, and you know what I mean, if you're tired of that, check out Renaissance. Go to renaissancebank.com and find one of their local offices and give them a call. I think you'll be glad you did. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And now I want to welcome Garrett Massey. Garrett is the CEO of Polyglot Labs. Garrett, welcome.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
You came back.
I did.
Yeah, you're a return guest.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. They let me in the building.
Yeah, well, and I'm honored and surprised you came back after what we did to you last time. So, no, seriously, glad to have you back. For those that don't know about Polyglot Labs, let's give a quick overview as to how you're serving folks out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Polyglot Labs is a full-service web design and development agency. We work with small and large businesses, from local mom-and-pop shops to folks like Coca-Cola and the Home Depot, developing web and mobile applications for their clients' needs.
Those are some pretty high-end clients.
Yeah.
So talk about what it is you're doing for those clients that really has gotten you into that size. I mean, what are their special needs?
Sure.
Maybe that smaller and medium-sized businesses don't necessarily have.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the challenges a lot of larger organizations experience are staffing for special projects. Oftentimes their internal teams do not have the expertise or bandwidth to develop the projects that they've been tasked to develop. So they don't want to rely on offshore resources or work with super large agencies. They need something that's a little more niche, a little more specialized. So that's where our team comes into play. We're about 20 folks, all located in the Atlanta area. And we have been doing this for about 16 years. So we have pretty large depth and breadth of experience to bring to the table.
Before we get into the kind of the nitty gritty of all that, talk about how Polyglot got started.
Yeah. So we started out as Eyesore Inc., actually, like I said, 16-ish years ago, in a dorm room at Georgia Southern University.
I love it.
Sounded like a really good idea. We came up with a tongue-in-cheek name to stick on a project for one of our software engineering courses at the very end of our major, and stuck with the name, and a year or so later actually incorporated and have been running ever since.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And so you started out by, like every business does, you were doing websites for pretty much anybody that wanted them done, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you were working for a variety of small businesses, nonprofits, I assume, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have touched on just about any legitimate industry there is out there, and maybe one or two that's not. So kidding.
That's a whole nother show.
Right.
Let's talk about, though, how you've grown. So you grew in technical capability, right? So talk about that trajectory, right? Yeah. Of developing the technical expertise that you needed to have in order to service those really big clients that you're talking about.
Sure. I think part of it is just the nature of technology in general. It's evolved. WordPress, for example, did not exist 16 years ago, or it existed as a really basic blogging platform. It was definitely not the third of the internet that it is now. So there's been the natural progression of technology expansion, growth, maturity, so forth. We have grown by expanding the headcount on our team. So we have folks that come from a variety of backgrounds with a variety of experiences. And then we also, just our clients that we've worked with have taught us a ton. Because, a lot of the lessons we've learned working for larger entities can trickle down to smaller folks, and they can get the value that the larger folks have paid us to learn.
Mm-hmm. You have, so it sounds like the common denominator, Garrett, for all your clients is large amounts of data that need to be quickly collated. The ability to access immediately has to be there, that kind of thing, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, for a lot of our clients, massive data sets are really important, whether it's large numbers of e-commerce orders, large amounts of video or photo data, large amounts of GIS data, MLS data, so real estate listings and so forth. Data is a huge part of what we interact with on a daily basis.
Let's talk about e-commerce specifically for a second. So with e-commerce companies, like what are some of the big problems that they have that you solve?
Sure. So SEO is a big facet that is often overlooked or underattended, I guess, for e-commerce companies. Things like the technical aspects for SEO, site speed, making sure that the right tags are in place, that type of thing. It's challenges dealing with growth. You run a big sale on Black Friday and your website crashes. Well, that's a problem. Interacting with ERPs like NetSuite or integrating with something like Salesforce. Those types of third-party applications can be very difficult to work with. They're very strict and regimented, what you can and can't do. So those are some of the challenges that the clients we've worked with have faced that we've helped them overcome.
And are they, I guess, what is the state, as you see it, of e-commerce in general and where that sits? I mean, we went, because you're really a barometer of that to an extent, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And so we went through the pandemic, e-commerce went through the roof. We've had a pullback, let's say, right? I mean, a lot of folks, e-commerce companies are laying off people because they built up. So what does it look like today, and what are you seeing, and what are you seeing particularly among some emerging e-commerce providers that are growing right now? So talk about the landscape.
Absolutely. So, e-commerce is obviously not going away. I think it's going to continue to grow and be a larger and larger share of the overall commerce that we interact with. Mobile first is really important. More transactions are being completed on mobile devices than ever. And then also working across platforms. So somebody may find something on their mobile device and then go to a computer, research it, and then buy it on their iPad while they're drinking their martini, watching TV at night. So cross device compatibility is exceptionally important. Using tools like smarter searches is something that we've been tasked with more and more frequently lately. Kind of more predictive, Amazon-like, I'm doing air quotes here, type search experiences are what folks are are looking for, and it's worth investing in, especially if you have an e-commerce store that has 10 products. Well, that's one scenario. But if you're working with hundreds or thousands of products, getting folks to what they're looking for as quickly as possible and making it easy for them to give you money is really key. So streamlining that whole process. People are looking for the Amazon, buy now type experience, and they're expecting that for both large purchases and small purchases as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, because you cannot. The consumer doesn't care whether you're big or small. They're just interested in the experience, right? So you've really got to maximize that customer experience, and you may not necessarily like having to do that, maybe right? But if Amazon's doing it, then you've got to think strongly about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that also goes into accessibility as well. So accessibility for folks that have handicaps, whether it's visual impairments or others. That's been a really, really big thing. We've seen that hit the restaurant and banking industries, the real estate industry, and e-commerce now especially. Making websites accessible for folks with various disabilities is also really important.
Got it. We're here chatting with Garrett Massey, folks. Garrett is the CEO of Polyglot Labs. So, Garrett, maybe it's 4 years ago now, you split, and this is when you were back in the studio with us before, you split the company into really two areas. The original eyesore business and then a second business, both under the umbrella of Polyglot Labs. Talk about that second business.
Yeah, Cortex Digital.
Yeah.
So we have, from day one, I've always had two different sides to what we do. One is more focused on the digital presence side of things, so a lot of marketing-based websites, brochure sites. Nowadays, that looks more like the WordPress development work that we do, but also Craft CMS, we do a little bit of Drupal work, and a few other platforms. We also have this entire department within our organization that focuses on application development. So whether it's mobile apps, so iOS or Android app development, or more largely web application development. So applications that may manage large amounts of media, for example, or may integrate with FMLS to pipe in real estate property data into Atlanta Fine Homes internal advertising application. Those types of things, and there's a lot of crossover. As I mentioned earlier, technology has evolved. The line between straight front end development, which used to be just HTML and CSS, and back end development, has really kind of blurred. But we have maintained two teams that work together on a regular basis, but they typically address two different types of challenges. One is more of a marketing focused challenge. Hey, how's my business being portrayed online? Whereas the other team is focused on internal processes. How can we make this thing internally less labor intensive, more efficient, less costly, those types of things. So from a branding perspective, iSoar has a bit more of a tongue in cheek type of feel that works well with the marketing vibe. Cortex Digital is more on the brains of your business side of things.
Got it. So that really that's quite a robust set of technical skills and I guess options. Really, that's what it translates into for your clients. Options that they have in terms of how they want to design a particular web application or website or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, and we take the approach of whenever someone comes to us with an issue, a challenge, an opportunity, we try to ensure that we're recommending the most cost-efficient, as well as the most overall beneficial way of approaching a solution, because sometimes something out of the box can be the best way to go, and it's maybe cheaper. Sometimes out of the box winds up being a lot more expensive because you're trying to hack together things that shouldn't necessarily play well together. So the diversity experience piece has been really a really powerful tool for us to help our clients out.
So Garrett Massey, CEO, Polyglot Labs, you got a big announcement.
Yes.
What big announcement do you have?
Yes. Well, I just saved 10% or more on my insurance. We'll get a plug in there.
You've been watching too much TV.
Yeah,
lately,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, really excited. So here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing our own podcast called Ecommerce Connector.
Awesome.
So we'll be bringing in folks to our own little studio that have experience either starting up, managing, building, growing, selling, or supporting e-commerce ventures. So we have a pretty cool lineup already of both founders, owner-operators, as well as consultants that are ancillary to e-commerce. So whether it's SEO or other facets. So we're kind of excited about that.
Why the title E-commerce Connector? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, so it's we did a little bit of brainstorming, and we realized that the goal of what we want to do, the power behind kind of getting all this information together and sharing with folks, is to be able to connect both the folks that we know and the folks that we'll meet going forward with great resources. We know a lot about e-commerce ourselves, speaking about the Polyglot team, but more importantly, we know a lot of folks that know more than we do about every different aspect of e-commerce. So bringing those types of folks together, connecting and sharing that information is really important and can help organizations grow.
That's terrific. And we're here at Business RadioX. We're delighted to be producing the show and helping you distribute it. And so it's a pretty exciting day for us too, to talk about that. So thank you for that. And we're looking forward to working with you and your team on it. So what is it that, you mentioned some of the guests that you would have on this show. I mean, what are you hoping that the listeners get out of it, of the show?
I think a number of things. Shared experiences, validation, I think is really important. Whether somebody is on day one of their e-commerce journey or, day 1,001 or 10,001, I think is really important to feel validated because e-commerce obviously is a super wide term. It can apply to a lot of different things, but there are a lot of different similarities that apply. So, kind of sharing information that validates folks is one of those. Bringing in experts that, otherwise you may not, unless you know them, you may not connect with. I mentioned SEO being one of those. Integrating with third-party applications or PR as it relates, or translation services as it relates to e-commerce. There are so many different facets that can help people either grow their e-commerce business, stabilize it, make it more automated, what have you. There's just a ton of resources out there. And because we've been doing this for so long, I think we can do a pretty good job of curating those folks, because we have a lot of really cool friends that we've worked with over the years that know a lot about stuff. Yeah,
for sure. Well, and I can see, and this is a question, I guess, doesn't start out that way, but I'll get there. I can see how a lot of e-commerce business owners kind of get in their zone, if you will, and because they're operating a store that's open 24/7, every day of the week, right? And so no holidays,
right?
And so they are pretty busy,
right?
Even at a low volume, they're pretty busy. I mean, relative to some other small businesses. And so oftentimes maybe they put their head down and they don't really have the same opportunity that other industries have to kind of like look in what's going on in the rest of the world, right, with their peers. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think so. And I was about to say, especially with smaller organizations, but e-commerce organizations, but I don't think that's true. I think with larger ones as well. If the proper scale or management structure or whatever is not in place, the owner or the management team is focused on, fulfillment and customer service and ensuring that the website stays up and, growing and all, marketing and advertising and all that. There's so many different facets that come into play. And if you don't have an opportunity to pull your head out of the inner workings of your organization, whether you're one person selling $1,000 a year or 100 people selling $10 million a year, it doesn't matter. You won't have the opportunity to grow and ultimately create a more fulfilling and sustainable organization. So my thought is, if we can help at least one person, create something that's more sustainable and give them a better work-life balance, then I think we will have been successful.
Yeah, that's terrific. Ecommerce Connector is the name of the new show, coming up soon here on the Business RadioX network and wherever you can find your wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, your app, whatever, Apple, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. We could go on Spotify. We could go on, keep going down the list. But wherever you consume your podcast, that's where you'll find the show. So what should people know about, let's say if they're interested in the show, like how should they learn more maybe? And maybe even people that are interested in talking about their business on the show, right?
Sure.
What should they do to get in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. So my email address is Garrett, Garrett, at polyglotlabs.com, POLYGLOTLABS.com. So certainly reach out. Would love to share more. Would love to have questions pitched over, topics that we can talk about. And like I said, we have 16 years of experience doing this, and have met a lot of really cool folks that have a lot of really cool information to share. Mm-hmm. So would definitely love to solicit any feedback and any request.
Yeah, that's terrific. Ecommerce Connector, again, is the name of the show, folks. And you can find out more information in the show notes and, of course, again, in your favorite podcast app. So before we let you go, let's come back around to Polyglot. You don't have to use names, of course, but let's talk about a success story, one that you're particularly proud of, that really highlights the great work you do.
Sure, absolutely, would love to. So the first one that pops into mind, because I passed their offices on the way here, is Coca-Cola. So that is, I will name drop on that one. That was a really cool project. We worked with them on for several years. They had an interesting application that was developed with to solve an interesting problem. They license photography, videos, audio, and other assets from a number of different folks to, spread across all their brands, all their marketing teams, and so forth. And they did not have a way to centrally manage the licensing for those. A lot of times they could, lease us or get the rights to a song, for example, for a term of 6 months to run on their commercials for Fanta, for example. And if there was no central location for them to keep up with those, so if they ran that Fanta commercial one day over, they were automatically fined, and sometimes those fines would be millions of dollars. So we worked with them to actually take over an offshore project that they had developed and redevelop that in a way that was quicker, faster, cheaper, and a more solid product for them. So we were able to work with their internal team as well as their external agencies to pull that off. So,
right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
Yeah. Most folks have heard of them.
Small little out of the way beverage company in Georgia somewhere, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. That's that must be satisfying though when you drive by you're on the connector in downtown Atlanta, drive by and see that Coke building and say that's one of our clients.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. Well, again, let's as we wrap up here, let's you already gave it, but I want to make sure we've got it out there. Your contact information. We mentioned the show, but for those that would like to be in touch and learn more about Polyglot Labs and its services, who should they get in touch with?
Yeah, feel free to shoot me an email. We'll get it along to the appropriate member on our team. So again, my email address is Garrett, Garrett, at polyglotlabs.com, POLYGLOTLABS.com.
And website for the shy that want to check you out first, polyglotlabs.com, right?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Terrific. Garrett Massey, CEO, Polyglot Labs. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And congratulations on the new show.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Hey, folks, just a quick reminder. If you've got some dysfunction in your back office, maybe some administrative tasks, bookkeeping, marketing that needs to be done that you are trying to do yourself and you really don't have time to do that correctly, here's an idea. Call the Chief Executive Angel over at Office Angels, S.E. Escobedo. She's fantastic. I know that because I use their services. I couldn't run my business without them. 770-442-9246 is her phone number. Call her directly and check her out. You can go to officeangels.us to learn more. But I encourage you, if you're a small business that needs to take that next level of growth, and you know what some of the issues are that you need to get off your plate, bring Office Angels. Let them fly in and fix it and fly out. You'll be glad you did. And folks, just a couple quick thoughts here. I've got a new book coming out later this year. It's called The Price and Value Journey, Raising Your Confidence, Your Value, and Your Prices Using the Generosity Mindset Method. If you're a professional services provider, you're having problems with your pricing, this book's for you. Go to pricevaluejourney.com to learn more, to find out the podcast of the same name, as well as to sign up for updates on the book as it comes out here later this year. Also, a big thank you to you, our listener. You have supported the show over these last 7+ years just marvelously well. We're so grateful for you. You continue to share the show when you hear of a business leader that you think someone else in your network ought to know about. You continue to do that, and thank you for that. And you support us on social media in so many ways. So please continue to do that as we continue to fulfill our mission as being the voice of business in the North Fulton area. So for my guest, Garrett Massey, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on North Fulton Business Radio.